morning after day one of GDC. Okay, so first thing, I hope you are drinking your water because that was a heavy day. I'm going to get some coffee in us because the hotel room has a Mr. Coffee. While I do that, let's talk about it. This is going to be a slightly longer video because obviously we've had an actual day of GDC to talk about. First off, you've got your badge on Sunday and you're sorted, right? Because you did the plan ahead thing. You were smart. Look at this fancy shit. I love it. That is what happens when you try to open coffee with your teeth. Okay, anyway, it's morning after GDC day one and you're a little bit pooped. Top tip, if like me, your reliable boots were no longer reliable because, pandemic, COVID, you kind of just wore them out and you haven't been shoe shopping in a while, you had to bring up your backup boots. And if, like me, your backup boots gave you blisters, it's because then obviously you got yourself some blister plasters, right? Right? And you were smart enough to pack some comfy shoes as well, right? So that means we're in flats today. But there's another reason we're in flats today, because today is party day. But we'll talk about the parties tomorrow morning. The parties tend to happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mostly. And then there might be something on Thursday or Friday, but they're a little bit different. But yeah, that's a conversation for another time. So yeah, you turned up with your badge, you showed up, and the talks got started. Disappointment. The first talk, the speaker was remote. And, I mean, my work's paying, so I'm not as slighted. I mean, obviously my time's valuable. But if you're going to do a remote speaker, like, you should label that pretty clearly, right? And then on top, if you're going to do remote, just pre-record it, unless you're going to interact with the audience. And at that point, I'm like, I kind of just want to watch this on the vault, The value of attending is no longer there, or at least attending in person is no longer there, because it's not like I can approach the speaker afterwards or whatever. Sure, I could talk to some of the people in the audience, but anyway, take notes. I hope you've been taking notes. Don't need to take too many notes. Mostly you want to record your thought process because, you're going to have access to all of these talks on the vault, because that's the other thing. Watching talks on the vault, you can fast forward them and stuff. So the notes are mostly for capturing your thoughts or any ideas that come to you while you're listening to the talk, and maybe some reference points, so you can kind of just skim the notes, so to speak. But the notes are not recording what's on the slide. Don't be afraid to take a photo of the day of what's on the thing. But anyway, that's all just generic conference stuff. So after that, I'm wandering around and catching up with people. Had to meet up with some folks for some meetings. Managed to catch lunch with my team, and my team's based in San Fran. It's the first ever time I've met most of my team, in person at least. So that's a big deal. You lose GDC if you wander into a Web3 or a Metaverse talk. I lost GDC. To my credit, the talk brief did not mention the Metaverse or Web3. It was meant to be a talk about VR, UX, and holograms. And that's a really interesting challenge because obviously interacting with stuff when there's nothing to touch is a challenge. And I do a lot of that at work. So yeah, really expecting like a good talk about VR UI. Nope, absolute bollocks. Total waste of my time. And if I was less British, I would have got up and walked away in the middle of the talk. And to be honest, I should have, because my time's valuable, and your time's valuable if you're attending. So honestly, if the talk's not for you, get up, walk out. It's fine. It's fine. If the speaker's going to get tossed by that, then... it sucks. I've had it happen to me where people have gotten up. But if someone gets up relatively early in the talk, then hey, the talk just wasn't what they were expecting. If they get up kind of halfway through the talk, then it's like, oof. And if they get up towards the end of the talk, then you're like, oh fine, they've just got to be somewhere relatively quickly, and they can't wait for the end time of the session. So there's kind of some etiquette there around talk finishing. Oh, with grabbing lunch, we did a lawn lunch, because lawn lunches are lovely. There's this lovely green patch near Moscone Centre, and there's a bunch of restaurants in the AMC building. Restaurants is too fancy a title. There's a bunch of takeaway places. in the AMC building. You can grab some grub at, and yeah, you're good to go. This coffee, by the way, I've got to wait for it to cool, but 100% Arabica. Because I have my coffee like coffee is meant to be drank. Black, no sugar. Lunch. You've had lunch on the thing. You've done a whole bunch of really good talks, I hope. Oh, another talk I went to on biofeedback. It's one of my favorite kind of talks. One of the speakers was remote, but to be fair, he's a guy in like his 80s and he's relatively retired. But the main speaker running the talk was in person, and that makes a world of difference. And he was like a PhD fellow who was basically doing follow-on research from this original guy's research. Alan Pope, by the way, is his name, the NASA guy who did the original research. Biofeedback, super interesting. I'll make another video just on that talk because fantastic. The TLDR on it is basically monitoring people and then having stuff affect in the game and then how that feedback loop works. Very, very cool stuff. Animation Microtalks. There are some talks at GDC you always go to, right? If there is a post-mortem on a game that is more than 20 years old, go to it. Guaranteed. Because that's a proper post-mortem. That's a no holds bar. I've had 20 years to think about it. No lawyers are going to come after me. That's a good talk. If you do a post-mortem talk within 5 years, it's censored. People are leaving stuff out. Some people still have chips on their shoulder. Not as worth it. But if the game is really old, go to the talk. It's a good talk. And the other talks you go to, Microtalks. Microtalks, depending on the discipline, they vary a bunch, but they tend to be really good because they're rapid fire. Because very few people can talk for an hour and actually be really interesting. Most talks kind of fall into the 10-minute category or the hour category. There's a lot of people who write like 30-minute talks and then try to stretch them to an hour, and it's like, it's not good. Information dense. We like information dense. But the animation microtalks, they're not like, here's a bunch of tips and tricks of the trade. They're literally, they started off with that. But every year, the animation microtalks, like a bunch of the other microtalks, are more just a cathartic release. Because a lot of people just go on a rant for like 10 minutes and it's fabulous. Or they're just trying to like, I have one thing to tell you and I'm going to tell it to you really fast. Here it is. Microtalks, extremely solid. I will say, one challenge this year, I have seen a ton of people I think I know, but they're wearing a mask. And I haven't seen them in over 2 years. So I'm like, is that the person I think it is? I don't know. And after my embarrassment had developed, or I accidentally walked up to someone thinking it was someone else, and hugged them from behind, never again. Yeah, I've got to be really careful about that. So anyway, day 2 is starting now. Let's see if my energy levels hold out. But importantly, day 2 starts with the Adobe keynote and ends with the Adobe party. So probably be a lot more hungover for my report tomorrow on that. If I get a bit of time in the day, I might do a video on the biofeedback talk before it plops out of my mind. Otherwise, I'll do that when I get back home. But that was a really good talk. Really, really good talk. I mean, the animation microtalks was fabulous. It's exactly what I needed to end the day on. But the biofeedback talk was actually really good info. And I was like, good talk, good talk. Funny thing, ran into Shu yesterday. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but like I was with a funny story. Anyway, I'm gonna go hit the Adobe keynote, have this coffee that I'm putting off, and just head on down. Yeah. Fire questions, let me know. Yeah. Is anyone finding this helpful? I'm finding it helpful to just talk about it at least. Anyway, till tomorrow.